And we're back. And this is going to be a really interesting podcast. We have someone we've been actually waiting to talk to for a good long while. And not just because sometimes we kind of dig into some topics, but we also have somebody who like has really been around in the industry and has a really fascinating background as well. And we want to kind of, how can you take that background and apply it to some of your product knowledge and some of your technical knowledge within the industry. And so for that, today we have Siqi Chen, CEO and founder at Runway. First of all, how are you doing, Siqi?
I'm doing great. It's a wonderful Monday. Thanks for having me, Aaron. So excited to be here.
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, first of all, like your combination of both a technical and a business and financial background is really fascinating to me. Like, how did you go from like NASA and JPL and being a coder and developer to eventually head of product at Zynga and now CEO, CFO at a finance platform startup? Like, give everyone a quick introduction and kind of origin story, if you will.
Yeah, I think it's mostly by accident, by doing the things I thought were most fun. I majored in math in college, and the reason why I majored in it is like I was one of the few Asian kids in my high school to not get like 800 on the math SAT, and I was so upset about it. So I thought I would major in it. And that ended up being very fun. Math is the foundation of almost everything that we do, from economics to science. So I got a lot out of that. And then I was fortunate enough to get an internship and then a job at NASA JPL for a time. Was able to work on the Mars rovers, both the Mars Science Laboratory as well as the Spirit and Opportunity rovers, doing some machine vision work in the machine vision group. So that was very fun. But this is around, what, 2005, 6 or so, and the internet was happening, Web 2.0 was happening, and I thought I really wanted to get into it, and I want to build some interesting products. So moved to the city for a search engine startup called PowerSet, started my first company making games when the first Facebook platform came out, and then I've kind of just been working on and building companies' products since then, and now I find myself running a finance software company. So it's been a long and winding journey.
Fantastic. Yeah, and actually, let's talk about that building products for a little while. So, like, I definitely noticed your background. There was this core concept of building, right? And you mentioned that. What has been kind of your philosophy in building products, like all the way back from like those social gaming days, all the way to building finance and finance platforms, right? Like, how do you think about building products that customers ultimately demand and crave and want?
So it's evolved with the consumer space. I kind of started just building stuff that I would have liked to see. And I think there is this almost delusional sense of grandeur where you're using a product and you're looking at what exists in the world and you just feel like it could be a lot better, right?
Sure.
That's really where a lot of this comes from. And so when I think about why Apple became one of the most valuable companies in the world, like how many phone companies and phones were there in the world? There were like no shortage of phones. But if you do something really, really, really well, people are going to want it. And I think that you can extend that, generalize that to any number of markets, just about any market. And so it turns out that the market rewards you for doing something better if you can actually deliver. And I've always been super interested in that, in building new things that are provably better, that people enjoy, and it makes them happier, whether that's a game or finance software. That's what drives me.
Yeah, I love that. And let's also kind of a follow-up to that of how to think about, I think one of the biggest things I've seen from a product standpoint, evolution, if you will, has certainly been Gen AI, right? Like AI in itself is I mean, it's not new, right? It's been around for a long time. But when it became mainstream, well, why did it become mainstream? Kind of like, to use your smartphone analogy, right? There were smartphones before the iPhone, but it took something come along that really grabbed everyone's attention, right? And I feel like Gen AI and Open AI and a lot of these other things, and now you have like, it made everyone kind of wake up and even realize like AGI was even a thing, right?
Yeah.
And so like we keep hearing all the time, like, hey, it's going to be disruptive. And then, but like by the way, my day job is, following the AI space, but then it starts to fall over when it comes to ROI and, some of these other things,
Sure.
and you go to build the products around it. And
Yeah.
so, like, how do you think about it when you've got something that's out there that's like, hey, here's something that's potentially super disruptive, but oh, by the way, the product, like you've got ROI considerations, or you've got all these other considerations of building an actual business around some of these things, right? And
Yeah.
not just VCs lighting money on fire.
Totally. Totally.
So how do you like rationalize that as a product person?
Yeah, I mean, I personally consider AI the most important invention since fire. So I'm very bullish on it. But to your point, the ROI is shaky and questionable. So how can both simultaneously be true? I think it's a really good question. So an argument for why just AI in general is super important, and the argument for why it's actually maybe underhyped, is that if you look at what you hear when people talk about AI, people compare AI to the internet or the mobile revolution or electricity or computers. It's like, oh, it's a big technological revolution. And the reason why I think it's actually bigger than all of those things combined, and it's the biggest thing since fire, is you think about how we arrived at each of those things, whether it's a computer or electricity, those things were the product of intelligence. This is intelligence of the artificial kind. This is actual intelligence capable of creating new forms of technology. That's never existed. Like anything like that has never existed before. So it is a discontinuity in technological progress. And so if you look from that lens, it's probably underhyped in how impactful it will be. At the same time, it's very important to have an understanding of how the technology works and where it's at today, so that you have a good gauge for what it's going to be good at and what it's not going to be good at today. And also, with that knowledge, you have to take into account the progress of AI and how it is accelerating, right? So, for example, two years ago, even, right, when I think it was Stable Diffusion, when the first art models came out, maybe 3 years ago now, 2021. The criticism was that, oh well, okay, it can generate an image, but look at how messed up the fingers are, right? And it's like, oh yeah, this is terrible. And it's like, do we not understand this is the worst it'll ever be? Like, it will get better, right? Like, it can generate a person, yes, with weird fingers, but oh my god, it
Yeah.
can do
It
that. It can
generated
just
a
tell it to
person.
generate a picture and it'll create something that roughly looks like that. That's incredible. And so today, I think there's variations in argument today. It's like, well, look at its hallucinations, or like, look at its failure in this edge case. But what we're not looking at is like, it's kind of going like this though, and you're right
Yeah.
here. So I think that's a component of what's happening. But yeah, there's a lot of hype around agents and economic productively use of AI. And no, it can't do everything, but it can do a lot. Like, my daughter is learning how to code by asking ChatGPT how to make a game, and it's like brainstorming how to make the rules, creating the art, telling her to download Unity. Right? None of this existed before, and so we kind of live in this magical time where this technology literally is doing like incredible magical things. We're like,
Yeah, it's almost like this combination of adaptability and resiliency of kind of the human spirit, if you will, all built into one, right? Like, because at the end of the day, all of this stuff goes mainstream. And then, oh, by the way, to your point, it's like everyone, as soon as somebody sees it, it's like, well, that's not quite good enough. But at the same time, we don't realize like how far it has become. And is that just a mechanism as like let's say we do approach AGI, is that going to be that same spirit all over again of like, we're in the, like you were saying, like, for those that couldn't see, like he kind of did the hockey stick, visual, if you will, of like the graph going up and to the right. I mean, is that just going to be where we are going to be headed in the future? Is like all these technology waves just go faster and faster and faster, and now we've gotten to the point where AI accelerates everything even that much more going forward? Like, what do you think happens as we get closer and closer to AGI? Do we reach a point where humans kind of overload? Like, we stop becoming
so I mean,
adaptable?
there's two things, right? There's like the progress of technology and then how it impacts humans. I think it's pretty clear and obvious, if you follow this closely, that things are already accelerating. GPT-2 came out in like the 21, no, not 21, 2018. GPT-3 came out in 2020. GPT-4 in 23, and ChatGPT around the same time, right? And the first reasoning model, right? The DeepSeek's O1s came out in September of last year. That was O1. And now we have O3 and we're talking about O4. So that's like 6 months. So it's already dramatically accelerating and it will continue to do so, particularly as, one of the most economically, you talk about like economically unproductive use of AI. One of the economically productive uses of AI today is basically like customer success and customer support is like one big thing that seems to like it's working. People are saving a lot of money, and the other is actually writing code and engineering. Like it's just getting so much better so rapidly that one, if you don't know how to code, you can just like get something basic up and running really quickly. And the thing is, if you do know how to code, you have copilots and you have Cursor and Windsurf that's accelerating even like professional engineers their work. Inevitably, of course, that's going to accelerate AI progress as well. And there's some like foundational AI technology that's going to make itself better, basically.
Sure. Yep.
And so I think we are going to get there. We're going to go there fairly rapidly. Another data point that's interesting. So my own personal estimation of when AGI is going to happen was 5 years ago in 2020. I said it was going to be this decade, and that was very non-consensus at the time. This consensus was like maybe 2035, maybe 2040, maybe never. But the reason why I made that prediction is because if you look at the consensus graph of when AGI was going to happen over the last 40 or 50 years, the further back in time you go, the later people thought it was going to be. So in the 80s, it was like, well, it'll be like the 2100s or something where it happened. Right?
Oh, I never thought of it that way. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then in the 90s, I think we got it to like maybe to the 2080s, 2090s, right? In 2020, I think that fell down to around 2050 or so. And then it just kept going, right? Like a couple of years later, it was like, well, okay, GPT-3, maybe it's going to happen 2040. And then GPT-4 came out, right? Maybe it's like 2035 now. And now the consensus is like, there's a good chance it might happen next year. Like
yes,
but
yes,
the
right,
graph,
right.
you can plot it directly against time. Like it's like a perfect line. Like it just keeps on going as time passes, sooner and sooner. And it's a very clear trend. So it will accelerate. What does that mean for people? I think what it means for people is that, oddly enough, I have this belief that it's going to be a return to things that are uniquely human and valuable. One of my personal beliefs is like everything related to like proof of human is going to be more valuable. Like handcrafted goods, a home cooked meal or a restaurant cooked meal by a chef, sports, influencers, all of those same things are going to be provably a lot more valuable, and everything else is going to be free, is basically the framework.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like that. I like that. Let's return back to our topic of like building products real quick. So let's talk about FP&A. So for those that aren't familiar with the acronym, financial planning and analysis. Some of our listeners out there, like, we were actually talking about this before we record. They tend to skew more towards the technical side and the infrastructure side.
Yeah.
But a core theme of this show has like always been, hey, let's learn as much about all areas of the business as possible because it helps everyone kind of grow their careers and understand the landscape, if you will, right? So as someone who has a background in both of these worlds, plus you're now running, an FP&A startup, what do you wish folks on the technical side of the house knew more about?
Oh, yeah.
When it comes to that, right? Like, what's the one thing you were like, man, if I could just tell you one thing, what is it?
Yeah, the great thing about the question is the answer to that is the same things I wish I knew about when I was
Fair.
early in my career, because my background is obviously not in finance, is as a founder and as a engineer and product person. And one of the frameworks I have is like everything is everything. Like everything is product, everything is engineering, everything is finance. You can look at the world through all these different lenses and apply it like universally. And so a useful mental model is think about everything as finance. And so when you are as a founder, and I'm speaking for me personally, my first company, I thought, okay, I'm going to start a company and build a great product and they're going to give me money and it's going to be great, right? But the finance way of looking at it is like, when you're starting a company, you're starting a business and the business has expenses and it's going to have revenue and you want the revenue to be higher than your expenses. And you model all these different drivers of the business to simulate the different decisions you might make, right? So what happens if you invest more in engineering versus in marketing? What happens if your product improves your retention instead of your average contract value? And you can make all of these decisions about the business. And you do, basically. You do it implicitly, intuitively, or you can do it with some kind of model. And so the thing that I wish I understood, and I think more people should understand about finance, is that Finance is basically very similar to engineering in that you're engineering the simulation of a business. That's what the finance model and the formulas represent. It's literally a simulation. It's like a game engine. And so if you think from that perspective, you can engineer your own, you can use it to understand your business, and allows you to simulate and time travel into the future to understand the decisions you make today. And having a very robust model is incredibly important, and you can do it yourself.
Nice. Okay. That's super helpful. Super helpful. I love that. So maybe kind of a follow on to that though, of like what it's like to kind of build some of these, right? So there's a link in the show notes, and it's a video you did. It's probably over a year ago now, but it's and I'm using air quotes for everyone out there, the overnight success of Runway, right? Like,
Yeah.
it was a good representation of how products can go viral and the right mindset and finding product market fit and some of these other things. And so tell everyone about that. Like what is that story kind of in summary of, like, yes, Runway is kind of found its niche and doing really well and had success from day one, but I mean, it's been 5 years now. It's, tell everyone a little bit about what it's like to be a 5-year-old overnight success.
Yeah, we certainly did not have success from day one. We had success approximately around maybe like day 1,000 plus or so. And I remember that first year, we had to unlearn how to build things and relearn how to build things for a brand new market, a brand new segment, right? My entire career was in consumer. So I worked on games a few times over, worked on consumer mobile apps in heyday. I worked on food delivery at Postmates about my second company. And so I've never sold software to businesses before. And the way in which you learn what the pains are and the order in which you build things is completely different from consumer. And so a lot of the strengths, like the thesis for investing Runway was like, oh, let's take a good consumer founder and apply it to a product domain that's like been unloved, right? And it's a fine enough thesis, but I think what you have to bet on is what you probably didn't take into account is how much you have to unlearn too to even get good at this. And so that described the first couple of years of Runway. We kind of built and rebuilt and kept on building until we had someone move in for the first time. And so Dylan Field for Figma is one of our investors, and the story I love to tell is he described sort of getting to product market fit. It took Figma 6 years to get to $1 million in AR, by the way. Like, people forget how long it took. But he described it as building a house and trying to get someone to move in. And you invite people over to the house and you do this open house. And they're like, oh, it's a great house. And then you said, you want to move in? And they ask, well, is there a kitchen? And you say, no. And they're like, well, no. So everyone leaves and you go build a kitchen. You invite everyone back. And it's like, so do you want to move in now? It's like, well, there's a restroom. You're like, no. So you build a restroom. And you keep on repeating it until someone decides to move in the first time. Basically, that's the experience of getting to product market fit. And for certain domains, it can just take a long time. And so I think one of the things that helped me, I recommend everyone moves as fast as possible and learn as fast as possible and minimize your mistakes. But honestly, the thing that helped me the most is having the right expectations. Like, we knew this was a complicated product, and it would have taken about 3.5 to 5 years to get to some measure of success. And that was my expectation coming in day one.
Makes sense. I love that. I love that. And so let me kind of combine kind of our two themes together into one question then. So we've been talking about AI, we've been talking about this financial space. What do you think is like the biggest challenge to this space today? Like, because it sounds pretty complex at the end of the day, right? Like, is it AI? Because the reason why I say that is because I see the biggest benefits, like you mentioned, coding and some of these others, like any area where there's a deep pool of data and you need insights into it quickly seems to be an area where AI could provide some productive benefit, right? And so I guess where I'm going with that is like, is this area different? And what is your thoughts of like, hey, just throw a bunch of data at it and let AI do the models, right? Like where and how does that fit into this space?
Yeah, I think this goes back to the question of like, what is the role of humans in the AGI era, right? Like,
yes,
at the limit, you can imagine that AI can make better decisions on anything, right? It's like, you cannot make a move decision if you're playing Go against AlphaGo, right? Like, they will always make a better decision than you. So the question is, as humans, do we just like say, therefore we shouldn't make any decisions? Or do we say, well, okay, we're going to sort of approve and like use our human judgment to say, okay, whether we want one path or the other? And I think that's very much a sort of societal, philosophical decision. That is like will probably similar to there's already existing rules in place where in the military for military purposes AI is not allowed to autonomously kill, right? You have to like get a human approval. There's always a human in the loop. I think some version of that will be true for most decisions of significance, and I think that will be true in business too. And so from that perspective, I think AI will help us accelerate these thoughts, but we still need to be able to inform our own tastes and intuition and judgment. And so it's very difficult to make forward progress on technology if you don't understand and you didn't go through all of the development and study like the foundations of it. Just because AI can like figure it out doesn't mean that's not still valuable. I think the same thing is true for business, is that it's very difficult to understand intuitively what the drivers of the businesses are, what are the key levers, how does it work, without building it and understanding it yourself. And so certainly AI can make it a lot more accessible and accelerate that work, but I don't think it really replaces the need for humans to find clarity within the complexity of the business, and the complexity of business is only increasing. And so I think my personal bet is the differentiator is actually going to be design. It's going to be tools for thinking that makes sense of all of this multiplying complexity, multiplied even further by AI, in a way that makes intuitive sense to your head and you can fit it in your head. That plus AI, I think, is going to be the potent combination.
I love it. No, that's fantastic. I think that's actually a good place for us to kind of close this out. Final question for you. If anyone out there is interested in reaching out or finding out more, what do you have coming up and how can folks follow you, say hey, or check out what you've got going on at Runway?
Yeah, well, the best way to find out what Runway is we're at runway.com. We have great demo videos so you can see, and you can follow me on LinkedIn. I'm Siqi Chen, or on X, I'm Blader, Blade with an R.
Well, Siqi, thank you very much for your time today. I certainly appreciate it. And for everyone out there, thank you very much for listening this week. And of course, as always, if you enjoy the show, please tell a friend, please leave us a review if you can leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. And always looking for feedback as well. show@thecloudcast.net. On behalf of Brian, who wasn't able to make it this week, and myself, thank you very much for listening, and we'll talk to everyone next week.